Hey, we're Cub Sport, and we're taking you through the inspirations behind each song on our new album, Cub Sport by Cub Sport. I'm tapping into something. So the first track on the album is called Unwinding Myself, and it was quite a spontaneous song when I wrote it. I just went down into our home studio and pressed record and started singing, and I think I recorded it in like 3 parts. I just like pressed record, listened to it back, and then pressed record and kept singing. And when I listened to it back, I thought, okay, cool, I've got like the melody and lyrics. And then I tried to put some synth to it, and I realized that I was kind of singing in between keys, so I like couldn't actually put anything to it. So I took that as a sign that it should just be an a cappella song. And yeah, there were times while we were putting the album together that I thought maybe I should trim this down. Like, are people going to pay attention to like an almost 3-minute a cappella song? But I was really conscious throughout the making of this album to not make any decisions out of fear. And I think that was kind of like a fear that people wouldn't like it or something, but I feel like every part of that song that came to me like flowed through me for a reason, and so we kept it as it is, and yeah, it's the album opener.
I think it was pretty much always slotted in as the album opener too.
Yeah, I remember when we first released Bats, I had already recorded Unwinding Myself, and we like finished listening to it through like when it came out. And then I put on Unwinding Myself, and I was like, that is the start of the next chapter. And it was.
Yeah.
So Video was also one of the earlier songs that I wrote that made it onto the album. And for me, it kind of feels like a moment of like just owning what we're doing. And it was kind of a time in my life when I recognized some limiting beliefs and situations that I'd found myself in, and that was kind of the time when I was like, I think I know myself and I'm ready to focus on the good things and let that kind of be the driving force. It kind of comes back to that whole concept of doing things out of love rather than fear. And this song features Mallrat, who is probably my favorite artist, and her verse on it is just like heavenly. And yeah, I feel like I'm gonna say that every song on the album is one of my favorites, but this is one of my favorites. We first met Grace back in 2015. We played a show at a university. It was like in the middle of the afternoon.
An O-week thing.
It was like really hot, and we played in a tent that was so low for some reason. It was like we were all being like squashed under the sun, and it was kind of a weird time for us in our personal lives, and as a band we were like
a limbo time.
Yeah. And so the vibe at the show was really weird for us. It was my first time playing guitar on stage, and I hadn't put my strap on properly. I like dropped my guitar, and then I like knocked over my drink and like went on my pedals. I was just like, oh, I'm not good at this. But we met Grace at that show, and she asked us for a recommendation for a guitar teacher, which we gave her. And that was around the time when she got started in music, and I think she was still in high school at the time. But yeah, for me, like that whole day, and I guess where we are now, where she's one of my favorite artists and she's featuring on our album, it's like kind of testament that even like the bad times are kind of planting seeds for things that are going to come into fruition later. So I wrote Sometimes at the end of 2017, around the time that the same-sex marriage debate was happening. And we had only come out as gay the previous year, and so we were still kind of adjusting to being open about that side of ourselves, but it felt like a really important time to be honest with all of that, and I guess to use our platform to encourage other queer people who are like going through the same stuff. And it was a really amazing time because I felt like there was like a real connection that was building, and we really got to experience the joys of like that community, but it was also really taxing, I guess, seeing the no campaigners and kind of just the pressures of becoming spokespeople, and it felt like we were so new to it. So yeah, sometimes it's about the highs and lows of that time and about feeling really exposed and I guess adjusting to being so open. Limousine is a song I worked on with Golden Vessel. He produced this whole track, and we worked together on a bunch of songs for the album, but this was one where I went over to his studio and he's like, I've got this song, and it was just missing vocals, and he asked if I was vibing it, and I really was. And lyrically, it kind of follows a similar vibe to Sometimes. I wrote those lyrics at the start of the song. My emotions are tattooed, they're on the internet. I had some personal stuff, wait, I mentioned it. And it's kind of about making myself an open book while I feel like I'm still figuring so many things out. And it's also about developments in love and sexuality and spirituality, and the way that I feel like those things are they kind of come together to be one thing that for me kind of like represents like our greater purpose or something. So yeah, that's what Limousine's about, and stylistically it's kind of the furthest we've pushed our sound from where we started, which is super exciting.
I remember when Tim first came home from that session with Max and he played it, and we were just like, who's going to release this? Like, where does it fit? And then we just listened to it over and over again, and we were like, this has to be a Cub Sport song. I think it's definitely one of my favorites on the album too.
There's a part played on a Juno synth that goes through the whole song. It's like dun 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 dun. And I recorded that on Boxing Day in 2017. And it had just been sitting on my hard drive for a while. And then when we were in the US in April, we had a bunch of long drives. And so I ended up just like sifting through my hard drive and pulling out old ideas and kind of working with them. And I built the rest of that track around that Juno part that I'd recorded months earlier. And it was my first time kind of bringing a track from like such an early stage through to like being finished while I was out on the road. And yeah, it's quite a different song for Cub Sport because it's pretty much just instrumental. I recorded vocals for the whole thing, and then
in a hotel room with like wet floor.
Yeah.
Like it was soaking wet. And when we tried to towel it up, it was like brown.
And yeah, it was like a hotel that we stayed at in Denver, and
we called reception, we're like, the floor's wet and brown. He's like, if you want me to do something about it, you can come get towels.
Like, can you bring them to us? I don't want to walk on the wet floor to go get the towels. But yeah, I had wet feet and I was sitting on the bed in the hotel in Denver, and I felt like the song was actually more expressive without the vocals on it, because when I was working on it I was fighting off the flu, so I was on vocal rest for like the whole first part, and I feel like it kind of forced me to be more expressive with my instrumentation. And yeah, but I left the one line, lift me up, in it throughout the song, and I feel like it kind of symbolizes embracing a lightness in my life that has sort of happened over the last year. Again and again and again and again and again. Light 2 was another song where I was just sifting through my hard drive and I stumbled across a session that I didn't recognize, and I opened it up and it was one that Sam had recorded. We haven't figured out when we even did it, hey?
No, I reckon it might be around the same time as the instrumental part of Lift Me Up.
Yeah, so it was, months earlier, and it's just such a beautiful chord progression. I found it really inspiring. And so I was keeping a journal while we were on tour in the US because I felt like I was going through so many changes, and I was like, I really want to remember how this is like all unfolding, because it felt like such a transformative time in our lives. And I opened up my journal to a day when we were playing a show in Buffalo, and I was fighting off the flu, and I had also twisted my ankle in Atlanta like a couple of weeks before, and so I was feeling pretty sorry for myself. And we were at the venue in Buffalo, and I was trying to find the green room, and there was like a stiff door like to the side of the stage, and I was like trying to push through it, and then I finally like pushed through but pushed too hard, and there was like steps down onto concrete on the other side, and I just flew through the door and landed at the bottom of the steps on the concrete. And I was just like, whoa, what
Zoe
just
and I
happened?
heard it, we were like, oh my God, Tim like must have broken an arm just now.
And I looked up the steps and Zoe and Sam were there just like, and somehow I didn't hurt myself at all. And I feel like it was like a little miracle and a little reminder that I needed to be grateful for like everything that I had. It was a reminder of how much worse things could be than having a cold and a sore ankle. So I opened up my journal to that day, and then kind of just was reading over those pages and freestyled over the progression that Sam had recorded. And when I finished the demo, and that was what we sent off to be on the album, and it was about half the length. And when we got it back from John Castle, who mixed the album, he had included like a whole other minute, and I had no recollection of recording it. And it's the section that I had decided to put, I'd like muted the second half of it. I guess I just wasn't vibing it at the time. But listening back to it, I was like, wow, that's probably my best vocal performance on the whole album. And so I'm really happy that that song came to be. Bolin did that one in the middle of our Bats tour. Butterflies is another song that I did with Golden Vessel. And for me, when I listen to that song, it sounds like flowers blooming and like butterflies fluttering. There's a guitar sample that Max put in there, and it's kind of throughout the whole song, and it just sounds like life or something, and like light. And for me, that song is again about releasing fears and I guess embracing love and light and allowing those things in, and I guess the different place that love and sexuality and spirituality can kind of take you. I feel like over the last 18 months or so, I've really been able to acknowledge and process a lot of the fears and things in my subconscious that have kind of held me back from the life that I want to live. And I think it was kind of through writing Bats and dissecting that album in such a public way that really forced me to dig deeper and I guess try and understand why I've written certain things and why I am the way that I am. And this song is about freeing yourself from those sorts of fears and limitations, and and it's also a celebration again of how love can kind of set you free and open you up to something that like it almost feels like another world. I wrote this song sort of as like a second coming out, because when I first came out as gay in the middle of 2016, my initial reaction was like, wow, I don't have to hide anymore. I can be my whole self. And I was like, this is incredible. And then after a couple of months, I started to realize that I was still keeping so many things about myself hidden. And I feel like everybody has things that they keep quiet because of, I guess, expectations from society. And there's definitely a mold of like what's considered normal and like what beliefs or anything you might want to keep hidden, or like even like struggles with mental health and that sort of thing. There are a lot of things that are hard to talk about. And so I wanted this song to be an anthem for embracing your whole self and celebrating everything that you are and everything that you aren't. And I hope that it can inspire other people to live their truth and be their whole selves, whether they're queer or if there's something else that they wish they could express but feel like they can't. I feel like there's a real power to being your whole self.
Mm-hmm. Definitely one of my favourites on the album. There's also like a perfect death drop moment, which I really want to work into the live set.
Going out of the bridge into the final chorus, like I really need this song to be a lip sync song on RuPaul's. But in the meantime,
I'll do it.
Yeah. Party Pill was a song that kind of just like took its form from start to finish. I had the lyrics in my phone that I'd written a few days previously, and I think I'd been working on another song that wasn't really coming together with ease. I think I was kind of overthinking it and trying to force something that wasn't naturally flowing. And it was kind of late at night, and I was like, oh, I'll just try a new idea. And I played those like first chords for Party Pill, and then I felt like that would fit the lyrics that I'd written a couple of days earlier. So I got out the note that had those lyrics and I just started like playing and singing through it, and that one came together really quickly. And I was crying quite a lot. It was like...
And Tim called me downstairs and I heard it and I was crying. We were just like standing there, like weeping together.
That song kind of feels like the story and our truth that I've been wanting to share for a really long time, but I feel like it's taken me this long to like get over the shame and fears that were sort of weighing on me about that whole thing.
Tell me there is no end to you.
As Long As You're Happy, I feel might be the most beautiful song on the album. I wrote and recorded it all pretty quickly, but it kind of took me a little bit longer because I kept having ideas that they weren't like easy to implement straight away. I included a field recording of a forest that we walked through a lot, and they were like, there's a breeze through the trees and birds singing, and I feel like that calmness and light of the forest really helped elevate this song and take it to another place. I guess the whole theme of As Long As You're Happy is talking about our love and how it feels like it can't be defined and it feels cosmic. And I think that there's, I feel like throughout the creation of the album I started to feel so much more connected to like the whole universe around us and inside myself and all living things. And I feel like our love and I guess that whole shift in perception was quite a large part of the inspiration for this song, and also why I wanted to have like the sound of the birds and the trees in it.
I feel like it ties in that kind of magic of just like day-to-day life that we get to share together. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Acid Rain is another song that I worked on with Golden Vessel, and this is another one that I guess talks about the way that love, sexuality and spirituality, how those things together can kind of open you up to like an unveiled perception of the universe and just the power of those things. And Al from Cloud Control features on this song as well. We ended up
huge Cloud Control fans, like always have been. Like we followed them around on a tour they did to like 5 or 6 shows. So it's like a dream come true.
Yeah. By the time we'd been stalking them for like 5 shows, we finally got to hang out. And I think that was back in like 2015 or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, we ended up hanging out around the middle of last year again. And there was, I feel like our connection with Al is like super strong, and he's one of those friends where like when you hang out, it's just like you go like, it's like you're like just heart to heart or something. And when he said that he would be up for like doing a song together or something, I was like, oh my goodness, can you imagine if Al was on our album? So I sent him this song, and he sent back like a demo recording with his outro on it, and we were just covered in goosebumps. Like this has just like elevated the song, taken it somewhere else. And
up until that point, it was a potential bonus track for the album, and it like brought it straight back onto the full thing.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the vocals for Al's part are like all the original demo vocals that he sent. Actually, all the vocals on the album are the original demo ones, except for
some backing from me and Zoe.
Yeah. I wrote Stars at a time when it felt like everything in my life was kind of falling into place for the first time. And there were like so many moments over the last year where I felt like I was dreaming, and I just couldn't believe that like my dreams are coming true and that amazing things were happening. I think after years of feeling like my entire life was one big struggle, I just like almost couldn't believe it when I feel like I had this shift in my life and things just started feeling positive. And yeah, this song is kind of about that, and I feel like sonically it captures that sort of dreamy, like almost like out of body, like floaty feeling or something that, yeah, I don't really know how to put it into words, but yeah, I really love this song, and it
was originally the title track of the album for a while on the working playlist.
Yeah, it feels like it kind of captures a big shift in my life. I'm Not Scared was the last song that we recorded for the album, and we did it with a producer in LA called Calvin Valentine, and we did 3 songs together over a couple of days, and this was the last one that we did. And it was another one of those situations where it just kept flowing until it was finished. And one of my favorite parts on the whole album is in I'm Not Scared, where Zoe and I sing in unison for like the whole end section. And I feel like our voices together kind of sound like the Spice Girls in Viva Forever, and it's like the whole song just feels so warm to me.
I'm gonna take you to the bottom.
Summer Lover is, I feel like it's like the perfect closer to this album. The sounds in it, I feel like they're really direct but like really gentle and beautiful at the same time. You said the other day that you feel like it's like
piercing.
Like pierces your heart or something.
It's like warm and piercing.
And it feels super nostalgic for me, and it kind of ties into the timeline of our first, I guess when we first fell in love, and that time of our lives where the year that we spent together, we like didn't actually have a summer together, and I feel like it's just a really nostalgic, beautiful song.
There was another one that nearly didn't make the album, but once we added I'm Not Scared, it was like, oh, that's the perfect way to cap it off.
It's one of Dan's favourites, and he was really pushing for it to be on the album, and at the last minute we're like, yeah, let's do it. And yeah, I feel like it's one of the strongest songs on the album now. So I feel like Cub Sport by Cub Sport it kind of feels like where the Cub Sport journey has been leading to. I feel like the 3 albums that we've put out kind of fit together as a continuous story, and I think Bats for me was a lot about learning self-acceptance, and I feel like this album was about learning self-love and kind of taking it to a new place of learning to accept love and let that in, and kind of letting it transform everything in our lives. I wrote all of these songs throughout the Bats album campaign. So I wrote a lot of it at home on our downtime between touring and that sort of thing, and I also recorded parts of it while we were on the road. So it kind of, it feels to me like it's really captured all of the growth and the lessons learned over the last 18 months or so. I feel like right now my favourite song on the album is Party Pill, and I think just because it feels so freeing and empowering to tell the full story for the first time.
I love all of it. Is that helpful?